Welcome to the Strokecast. A Generation X stroke survivor explores rehab, recovery, the frontiers of neuroscience, and how to peel a banana with one hand.
Hello, I'm Bill Monroe, and welcome to episode 22 of the Strokecast. This week, my special guest is Craig Martin, better known as the Online Busker. Craig is a musician and a stroke survivor living in Salamanca, Spain. Born in Manchester, England, he spent years as a professional musician in the bars and restaurants of Portugal and Gran Canaria. He eventually settled in Salamanca with his fiancée, where he taught English. And then he had a stroke. Craig worked through his right side hemiparesis to teach himself how to play guitar for the second time in his life. A big fan of the blues, Craig now records covers and new tracks at his home, and he posts them to onlinebusker.net. 50% of the donations that he gets to his virtual guitar case go to the World Stroke Organization to help support its mission of fighting stroke. I first met Craig through the Stroke Forum on Reddit. You can find a link to that forum over at strokecast.com/onlinebusker. And really, the music that he creates and performs on his website is just fantastic. When you're done listening to this episode, go ahead and check it out at onlinebusker.net. So, let's meet Craig. Craig, thank you so much for joining me on Strokecast this week.
You're very welcome, Bill. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. I'm really fascinated by your story, and I've listened to some of the music on your website, and you've got just this fantastic sound between the voice and the playing. I really enjoy it.
Oh, wow. People tell me that. I'm overwhelmed every time I hear that. I can't see it myself, but people say it, so I don't know.
Right. You know, it's one of those things where whenever we make something, we see all of the mistakes and everything that we could have done better. But our audience just doesn't see that. They don't see that detail. They see the overall experience they have. Yeah.
And I'm only making this music with cheap equipment and the cheapest things I could afford to buy, you know. And when I listen back to it and I hear myself singing, I think, oh, God, that sounds terrible. But anyway, I'll put it there. And then people say, oh, no, that's good. So I don't know. I guess we all hear things differently.
It's not the camera that makes the photographer. It's not the microphone that makes the podcaster, and it's not the guitar that makes the musician.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
One of the things I've been trying to remind myself of a lot, I've been talking about this a lot lately too, is that done is better than perfect.
Yes.
Just go out there and get started and just go do something.
That's right, yeah. A friend of mine from Manchester, I'm originally from Manchester in the UK, and a friend of mine there, he's an actor, and he went learning his craft in New York and all these big places, and he said one of the best things I ever heard, one of the best pieces of advice was, it is what it is. Just do it, and it is what it is. And that's right, yeah. Like you said, done is better than perfect.
So you're a stroke survivor. You're performing music online now. So what was life like before your stroke?
I was going to say kind of ordinary, but I don't really think it was. I worked as a musician for quite a few years, and all the stuff that comes with that, the late nights, the parties, the drinking every single night. And now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, maybe that wasn't the best lifestyle, you know?
Sure.
But that was down in the south of Portugal at the beach, down in the Algarve. I was there for a few years, and then I lived in Gran Canaria, in the Canary Islands, doing the same job.
Wow, must have been beautiful.
Yeah, fabulous. I mean, you're working, and I say working in inverted commas, really. You're working 2 or 3 hours a night, and the rest of the day is yours. and you're earning more money than the waiter who works all day, the poor guy,
Sure.
And the rest of the day you're at the beach, you're having lunch somewhere, reading, swimming, fantastic. But that lifestyle can't last forever. And I met my now fiance when I was in Canary Islands, and we moved here to the mainland where she comes from. And I now live in a small city 2 hours west of Madrid called Salamanca. It's a university town. And of course, trying to make a living as a musician here in a small university town is quite difficult. So I started teaching English. So that's when my normal life began, I guess,
Right.
being a teacher. Suffering from high blood pressure and diabetes, which I didn't think was a big deal.
Right, because it doesn't hurt while you're going through it.
Yeah, that's right. And the doctors keep telling me, you've got these two serious things. You've got to be on top of them, and you've got to take care of them. And I don't think it's very important. If I forget to take my pills for blood pressure, it's okay. I'll take one the next day. And of course, that's not the way. That's not the way to go, really.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it sounds like those things led to your stroke.
Yeah.
So how did the events of the day of your stroke play out? What was that experience like?
Wow. I wasn't working that day. I was going to meet a friend for coffee in the morning. I woke up in the morning and I said to my fiancée Raquel, I said, I've got something wrong with my leg. I said, typical man. I said, I think I've slept and trapped a nerve while I've been asleep. I didn't feel any different.
Sure.
Except that I couldn't really control my right leg. I was like, this is a bit weird. And I said, well, anyway, if it gets worse, then I'll think about going to the doctor or something. So, so I, typical man. So I went to meet my friend. We're having a coffee, and I was having trouble picking up the cup with my right hand. It affected my right side. Mm-hmm. So I'm struggling to pick up the cup, and I'm spilling coffee on the bar. And he said, "Are you all right, man?" I said, "Well, yeah, I think so, but," I said, "I thought I trapped a nerve in my leg, or it must be in my back because it's affected my arm as well." And I said, "Anyway, if I feel any worse a bit later on, then I'll go." So I got home, mm-hmm. And then I said to my fiancée was still here in the house, and I said, "Hey, you know what?" She said, "What?" I said, "Now it's feeling worse. Let's go." So we went to the emergency place there, and he asked me, he said, "Hey, take this pen and just write your name down on a paper, And for the life of me, I couldn't do it. I couldn't pick it up. And I thought, what's going on? And at the back of my mind somewhere, I kind of think I knew what it was, But I guess I obviously didn't want it to be that. But somewhere in the back of my conscious mind, I knew it. And he said, "Man, you're having a stroke. You've had a stroke. You've got to stay here in hospital, and that's it." So yeah, there I was in bed in hospital for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess most people get the symptoms, and if they know anything about it, or if they're lucky enough, they go straight to the hospital and things work out differently. But yeah, I didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's really that's really fascinating. That's how those stories play out is so important. In my case, I woke up with my left arm feeling funny and thought I slept on it weird.
Yeah.
Over the next half hour, the systems failed a lot more rapidly, but
mm-hmm.
but still, it's one of those things where if you don't get to the hospital fast enough, there's just not a whole heck of a lot they can do.
Yeah. And since that, obviously, I've been looking at strokes and researching things. There are things that, obviously, we know there are things that you can look for. Putting your tongue out, seeing if you can do that, lifting up your hands and all these other things. And I was thinking, why didn't anybody ever tell me this before?
Right.
You know, I mean, not that you're going to go around teaching everybody to look for stroke signs, but, well, I don't know. Why not?
Why not?
Why is it not part of schooling or something? I don't know.
Exactly. And that's one of the things we see. One of the things the American Heart Association has been doing here has just been promoting the acronym of FAST a lot more often. And I realize that doesn't translate as well into Spanish, but the FAST being face, looking for facial droop, A for arms, if one of the arms droops, S for speech, if speech starts to get slurred, and then T for time, if you see that, call emergency services immediately.
Yeah.
When this happened, you were still trying to play music while doing your while teaching English. So after the stroke and losing use of your right arm for a while, that must have made, well, obviously it would make playing music a heck of a lot more difficult. So how did music play a part in your recovery?
Well, it played a big part actually, because I remember being in the hospital and thinking, am I going to be able to play a guitar when I get out? That was the only thought I had in my mind. You know, it's such a big part of my life that I was thinking, well, I have to do it. However hard it is, I've got to do it. So I went home and tried to play my guitars, and I obviously couldn't. The doctors told me to carry on trying, although I left it for a little while. I'm not sure if that was a good idea or not. And then I had an idea. Because I was playing quite big guitars, you know, big acoustic guitars, and I couldn't lift my right arm over the top to even try to play it, you know. So I had this idea. I bought myself a small-bodied travel guitar. And that really helped. That really, really helped, because I could hold it. It was like a little child's toy, but a real guitar, you know. A bit bigger than a ukulele. So, but great for sitting on the knee, and I could get my arm over it comfortably. And I kept playing with that and and then it started getting a bit better. I've had to make some strange inventions. Like I couldn't, and in fact I still can't. I don't have much feeling in my right hand. So holding the guitar pick, the plectrum, was and still is a really difficult thing. So I put some double-sided sticky tape on one side of it, and I stick it to my thumb. And so that I can't drop it, and that's how I'm doing it at the moment. So,
a solution to make any occupational therapist proud.
Well, that's it, you know. And I didn't think about really how it affected me. One of my main thoughts while I was in hospital was, well, if I get out of here, I mean, I thought, if I get out of here, I'll try to help other people who are in the same boat as me, because it's not nice. And I saw people in the hospital who were much, much worse, you know. They couldn't move their hand or their arm or something like that. And I was constantly thinking, I've got to try and help these people. Wow. There must be people all over the world like this, who are going through this stuff. So I started a music blog, just with the intention of forcing me to practice. Yeah.
Sure.
So I thought, I'm going to make a video of this song, however bad it might be, and I'm going to edit it and I'm going to put it on my blog. That gives me a target to practice, because otherwise, without that aim or that goal, I wouldn't have practiced. I wouldn't have bothered probably. And one day I was looking on a website and I saw a donate button. And I thought, hey, wow, how do you get one of those? And I asked the guy, how do you get one of those? Oh, you do it through PayPal and this. And I thought, great. If I put that on mine, I can then donate money. I can then tell people that money that they donate will go towards a big stroke organization to help them. So I started looking for stroke organizations, worldwide ones, big ones. And I found the stroke.org. And so that's how it started, yeah. And then anybody who donates money to my website, half of it goes to the World Stroke Organization. So they're helping lots of people,
Fantastic. Yeah. So is that the primary outlet for your music today? Is posting on the online at the onlinebusker.net?
It is, yeah. I've got a list of cover songs that I want to do here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, about 15. So I've still got a lot of work to do, and that will continue into the future. Yeah, I don't plan on letting that go at all. I'm also I'm kind of trying to make my first EP right now.
Oh, awesome!
I've written some. I'm really into the blues,
sure,
Clapton and Hendrix and all that stuff. So I've written a few blues songs of my own, and I'm trying to record them. In fact, this morning I'm going down to the recording studio at the end of my street. There's one just down there, just to use one of their rooms, which is soundproofed, and then I'll do all the recording myself with all my own equipment. So that's my project at the minute, my EP, and putting more music on the side.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. That's one of the awesome things about technology today is that when you want to go make a thing, you can go make a thing. Somebody is not going to tell you to stop.
That's right, yeah.
Getting rid of those gatekeepers. You don't have to get approval from a music studio first to go ahead and record an album. You can do the work and get it done.
That's right. I love technology. I absolutely love it.
How would you describe the stroke care system in Spain? Was the care you got in hospital and or any post-stroke therapy, do you feel the quality was good, or what was that experience like?
In fact, I didn't have any therapy after because they told me that I didn't need it, because I could move my arm, I could speak, I could do things, and they said, you're okay, you don't really need any therapy. Although the rest of my family weren't so sure about that.
Right.
I mean, the hospital care in Spain is pretty good. I've got to tell you something funny. I was lying in bed there, wondering about if I'm ever going to get out of this place,
Mm-hmm.
And you've got at the side of you in the hospital bed, you've got the TV screen with the heart monitor and all that stuff, and it's like beep 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 all the time.
Oh, sure.
Well, this one at the side of me was during the night. It kept like beep 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 beep, and I looked at it, and the numbers for the heart were like 250.
Wow!
I'm panicking, like, what the hell's going on here?
Uh-huh.
And I'm shouting for the nurse, "Hey, what's going on? Get me something, And she just came in and smacked the TV like your grandfather would in the old days, just hit it on the top. And she said, "Oh, it's fine." And then it went back to normal. I was like, good God.
Wow.
Really scary. Really scary, yeah.
Well, it's interesting. My girlfriend was in the hospital a few years ago for some of her own stuff. And overnight they had her on the oxygen monitor, which would set, or the heart monitor or something, which set off an alarm when anytime it dropped below 50, which is supposed to be really dangerous. So it started doing that and setting off the alarm when it dropped to like 45, 42. And the nurse came in and she was like, I wonder how we turn off the alarm.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, I don't think that's the important thing here. But
yeah. That's not what we should be worrying about right now. Yeah.
But for other survivors who want to get back into music, if they're musicians before their stroke, or who maybe want to start getting into music now with despite having to deal with hemiparesis or limitations on a limb or something like that, what would you suggest?
For somebody who just wants to start, I'd say start with something manageable. I'm talking about size-wise, depending on what limitations they have, obviously. I saw a kid who was starting to play. Apparently, before his stroke, he was a piano player and quite a good one. And after, he just had this little toy keyboard about the size of my iPad. I mean, a tiny little thing. And he was just pressing it with one finger. But he was enjoying himself. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, was the main thing, just pressing one thing and enjoying it. And that's good. Start with something manageable that's small enough that you can hold or put on your lap or something like that. If you're a guitarist like I was, the other day I got a comment on a YouTube video. I made a YouTube video a while ago. 3 tips to help guitarists who've had a stroke or something like that it was called. And obviously with me being affected on the right side, it was all about the right hand work,
Sure.
And I got this guy said to me, hey, this is a great video and everything, but what about us who've affected on the left side? And I said, well, I can't really speak for you. I don't know what to say because it hasn't happened to me. It's just my right side. So that's the only thing I can give advice about, But yeah.
Flip the guitar upside down and try it that way.
Well, you could do that. Yeah, you could do that. You can put the strings on the other way and try it that way. Or buy a smaller instrument like I did. That was a really, really, really helpful thing for me. If you're a guitar player and you're playing a normal sized guitar, then get a smaller one. That's what I did. Mm-hmm. Or even play a ukulele, which is very small. Mm-hmm. And you'll still get that buzz that you get from playing a guitar because it's a stringed instrument and it's not as difficult.
Right. and ultimately it's that experience of making music that you're after.
Yeah.
What's interesting too is I think a lot of what we're doing in stroke recovery is, whether we're learning to walk or learning to play an instrument, where most of us are learning or are relearning things that we learned initially when we were little kids. And those little kid-sized things can sometimes help for that reason. When we first learned to walk, it took us years to get that figured out. It's going to take a little while again to rebuild the brain in that way.
That's right, yeah. I do have to say one caveat there. When I say get something manageable and something small, don't buy a harmonica thinking it's going to be easy. Because I'm telling you, it's the hardest thing in the world to learn.
Interesting.
It was one of the things I did. I thought, well, I've always loved the blues and the harmonica's always there, listening to Muddy Waters and all these people, and somebody's always playing the harmonica, so can't be that difficult, can it? It's only the size of a pack of cigarettes or something.
Right.
But wow. You're in for some frustration with that if you buy one of those.
Yeah, and often right side weakness or left side weakness isn't just the arm and the leg. It's also in the lips and the cheeks and a little bit in the tongue as well.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, that's my advice.
Awesome. So I first encountered you and your work in the stroke subreddit on Reddit. So how have you been using Reddit and other forums to help with your music and your recovery and with helping others?
Well, it's been fantastic. Facebook more, probably.
Okay.
I started putting videos up on Facebook. I don't know, one a month or something like that. And I was absolutely overwhelmed at the response. People like, wow, you sound just like before. And I'm thinking, well, I don't, surely. People, yeah, it sounds great. Another thing that completely bowled me over was I put a little globe on my website so that I could have a look just to see where people are visiting from and where they're having a look, you know. And I've hit 65 countries so far.
Wow.
And I mean, all over the world, from the US to Romania to Finland to India, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, all over the world. And within those places, I mean, I've had views from some really cool places. Seattle, for one. Chicago, Illinois, for another.
Uh-huh.
I mean, great blues town, Chicago. And even down in Mississippi, which has been really, really surprising. I got somebody from Greenville, Mississippi. That's Robert Johnson country. I mean, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So to hit all these corners of the world just by putting a song out there, I don't know how they find me. I don't know where they see it, but they see it. And Facebook's been really good. I've only recently started with Reddit, which I find really cool. You've got your own little subgroups that you can put your stuff there. Yeah, and I've had a good response from there as well. And again, it just gives me an aim. It's another place to put it. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got to make this one better because this is going on Reddit and Facebook and Twitter, and everybody in the world is going to see it. So I can't put rubbish out there, you know. You start turning into a perfectionist, and as you said, then you don't end up doing anything.
Right. You know, one of the things that I find interesting with the social media and even with putting out this podcast each week is that it also then gives me a level of accountability with the public where once I commit to producing something and releasing it at such and such a time, then I have to actually go ahead and do it. I can't just endlessly tweak.
And that's one thing I learned with YouTube. YouTube's been a huge help. I spend most of my time on YouTube. And there are lots and lots of fabulous producers and studio people on YouTube. And one of the things that a lot of them say is book time for yourself as though you're booking it in your own studio. So you're, Friday from 12 till 2, I have to record that. And as you say, it gives you some accountability for yourself.
Right.
You know, you've booked 2 hours in the studio, whether it's your own room at home or somebody else's. You've booked that time, so you've got to use it for recording or for writing or for whatever, you know.
Right. Once it's on the schedule, other things can be scheduled around it instead of it just continuing to float.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, very cool. So what do you wish that other stroke survivors knew early on in this process?
I don't know. First of all, I've got to say that having a stroke was my own fault. That's clear. Mm-hmm. And I've accepted that, and that's it. I wish people who had high blood pressure would take it seriously. I guess most people do, although I do know 1 or 2 people. My brother, for example, and he's a snooker player, and that's his life, you know. So I'm like, I say to him, you know, if anything happened to you, what happened to me, and you can't play snooker, what are you going to be like? Your whole life is snooker. Right. So take your pills, take them and take it seriously. Do your diet properly and just take care of all the things of your health that you've got to take care of,
Absolutely.
For people afterwards who've survived it, I'd like to say don't give up, but I've thought about that many times, but
well, the thing, it's natural to think about it and to have those thoughts come through when everything is turned upside down. And, this is a life-changing event. And for, 15% of the people who have a stroke in the U.S., at least, it's a life-ending event. So that is going to be a natural thought, but it's what you do when that thought comes through, whether that's your own energy to push through or whether that's ask for help and get help. And, there's a whole team of people out there who can assist us. We just have to let them know how and let them know that we need help.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't keep things to yourself. You need to, even if you've got to ask friends for help, don't ever be scared to ask somebody for help. That's a big thing, I think, I want to say don't get depressed, but I think that's a natural occurrence of a stroke. I think they go hand in hand.
They sure do.
And I started suffering from panic attacks. And when I tell people who know me that I've suffered from those, they say, "You? Really?" I say, "Yeah, I don't know why. I could be standing there in the streets and then all of a sudden I need to lie down. I feel like I'm having a heart attack or something. It's a horrible thing." But if you feel about those things, you get those things, go and tell somebody. Don't try and deal with them on your own,
Right.
Definitely.
Right. And that brings us to our hack of the week.
That's another thing I had to sellotape to my hand was a pen. I looked like a robot. I looked like something from a sci-fi movie. It was like something from Back to the Future. I had a pen stuck through my hand and all this sellotape all over it. And it looked ridiculous, but I started moving again and I actually wrote my name one day and I was like, wow, great. So yeah, sellotape is always good.
And that's awesome. One of those things I think about too, that I'm reminded about is that, especially some of those really silly things we end up doing, if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay. So Craig, this has been fantastic.
Well, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you, Bill.
So, thank you so much for joining me. Folks, I'd encourage you to go check out onlinebusker.net, and you'll be able to find those links also over at strokecast.com/onlinebusker. And we'll include the YouTube and the other links there as well. As you can tell, Craig has had quite the collection of adventures, and I'm really looking forward to more of his music. Have you had experience making music or art post-stroke, or worked with someone who has? I'd love to hear more about it in the comments over at strokecast.com/onlinebusker. Check out Craig's website at onlinebusker.net to listen to his music or drop a virtual coin in his virtual guitar case. In other news, I actually have a new Facebook page set up for Strokecast. We'll find me reposting more articles from the Strokecast blog, as well as episodes, as well as doing more Facebook Live videos over there. So it'll be a great opportunity to have some less formal discussions and answer some more questions and just talk about whatever stroke-related topics happen to be coming up that week. So if you head on over to facebook.com/strokecast or just search for Strokecast on Facebook, you can go ahead and check that out and give it a like, so you'll have more of that stuff up here in your feed. Be sure to share this episode with someone else who finds post-stroke music fascinating. And, of course, as always, don't get best, get better. Thanks a lot. I'm Bill Monroe, and I'll talk to you next week.
The Strokecast, Bill Monroe, and Bill's guests provide general information and entertainment, not medical advice. Please do not make any changes to your treatment plan or the execution of your treatment plan without first consulting your personal doctor or medical team. The Strokecast is a proud production of the Currently Speaking Podcast Network.